Hi everyone, Elizabeth here. It's been a long time. I actually looked and I can't believe it's been 4 months since I last posted a video. Basically what happened is when YouTube and the WHO merged back in October, my channel started getting slammed pretty hard, and because certain videos have been removed or flagged by YouTube as misinformation, I was not able to upload videos for a while, and pretty much anything that I recorded in October was on the verge of being too risky of verbal language. That is like, you know, the no-no words for those two organizations. And so basically it was like one more flag within 90 days that my channel was going to get shut down. And I kind of thought, well, I thought I was in the safe zone for a while, because as anybody who's followed, I've been talking to the air for the last like 5 years. This channel has not grown. It's a very, very small audience. And so obviously that they went from the big people first down to the little ones. So here I am many months later. And then with Christmas, kind of the busy season for shopping, especially with vintage Christmas items, it was kind of, you just really didn't have a lot of time in November and December, because I was working with a lot of the antique stuff, and I primarily work with a lot of the textiles, and that requires a lot of restoration because most everything from 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago is highly stained and requires a lot of time and attention, and I just didn't really get around to any of this. So welcome to 2023. I don't think there's any major updates besides shit's been a mess still the last 4 months, and it's probably going to continue to be rocky, especially through the next election cycle. So hold on to your butts. It's going to be a fun ride. But the one thing I just want to talk about, there's so many different ideas that I have for videos, things that I still haven't even touched upon, which was like the videos regarding Christ. I think the rabbit hole is a little bit bigger than what many people realize in terms of our historical lineage, especially in America, and understanding whether it's like Masonry or our history. I think the deception is a lot bigger than what a lot of us think, because we're kind of looking at history over the last 100, 120, 30 years from the Victorian era onward, but really a lot of these problems kind of root a long ways. So the one thing I just kind of want to talk about is maybe in this new year, one goal should be to really start understanding the human body from a different perspective, from a more sacred perspective. Not even just saying coming from the woo-woo sense of that you have 33 vertebrae and, you know, all these hormones and chemicals move up from the sacrum up to the brain and the claustrum and all that. Like, people know about that, but really just understanding the basics of your human anatomy to start to find more sacredness in your human design. And a lot of this can come from just understanding the basics of our human physiology. And this will be really good for people who are on that beginning path of awakening, or have kind of been awoke but dormant for a while. If you're still believe in the one side of politics where most of us woo-woo people have been lumped into over the last 20, 30, 40 years, if you haven't really woken up or broken away from that, you're still kind of a little bit dormant, or just not really knowing what's going on. So you could definitely dive deep into the sacred parts of our anatomy in terms of understanding what the third eye looks like and all of that. But I truly believe, from working in fitness going on 17 years, that if people understood how the human body works, I genuinely believe that they would not use and abuse their bodies the way that they have been propagated or brainwashed in America with junk food. Specifically, I'm talking about fast food. I mean, this is an example. It's not to criticize this person. We have to understand that a lot of analytics can come across as judgmental, but you have to be able to analyze certain things and behaviors in order to move or progress or grow. So you have to get a little uncomfortable or have some discomfort in order to grow and expand. There's a girl that I used to know from the fitness department at Bowling Green State University, and I watched her. She's, I think, maybe a year or two younger than me. I'll be 38 in February, and she's been trying to get pregnant for a long time and has been unable to. She has gained quite a bit of weight over the last few years. I think she might have had a miscarriage at one point, but she was doing a lot of posting on Facebook in terms of like infertility awareness. So I popped on to Facebook the other day. I don't spend much time online these days, but I do still go on. I noticed that she posted a picture of being pregnant. So they had the little ultrasound image or whatever of the baby. And she's like, oh my God, we're pregnant, because she's been trying for years. And I think she did like the infertility clinics and all of that. And she said, along with this picture of this baby, there's a picture of her in the car with a box of McDonald's French fries. And she's like, and side note, McDonald's, can you please start making your French fries gluten-free and dairy-free? And I'm sitting there like, you've been trying to have a child for a very, very, very long time. And now that you're finally pregnant, you choose to eat McDonald's. I could be projecting. Projection is really rampant and really bad these days. We can all find people online and start to project certain things. But if I put two and two together, my understanding of having a miscarriage, and by the way, she chose injections as well. I saw that, a couple years ago. It's a miracle that she's pregnant. So I guess yay science. But my point is, this stuff is poison, and it is meant, like all of these foods and all of these artificial fake foods that don't break down, specifically McDonald's, which has a history of being satanic from the beginning, with Roy Kroc stealing the business from I think it was California, right? So they stole like the small business idea from the place in California, and then started with artificial milkshakes and kind of slowly made it a more disgusting and repulsive business, from massive abusive industrial farming. GMO potatoes are being used. I think back in the 90s, like vegetarians were pissed off because there was like animal fat or something like that in the French fries. So they have not at some points been dairy free. And so I could be judging, but my assumption is that her grasp and reach out for McDonald's is because she has a lot of unresolved issues, probably unresolved trauma from losing a child, which has spiritual implications on the body, but also just that need for comfort. Like, oh my God, we finally did it. I don't know, like I'm just analyzing this from a computer screen. But I just genuinely feel like if people understood how the human body works and you respected the sacredness of your temple, I've talked about this years ago, the church, the mosque, the little Buddhist temple, they're all spick and span and clean inside. They're not cluttered. It's because those physical structures are a symbolic replication of our own bodies. So it's in the Bible and yoga and all these other things about the internal and external cleanliness of your house, but also your body, purification and detoxing. I just feel so awful that this thing has been created within her, this being, and it is now being nourished with the most dangerous food on the planet. All you have to do is think about the basics. So if you have people in your life who are completely checked out, think about the basics. Your lungs and your brain and your heart never stop. It never stops. How do you not think that that's amazing in some ways? Your muscles kind of stop contracting, especially when you're sleeping. I mean, maybe there is some muscle contractions, but things generally do stop a little bit while you're at rest or at sleep. But those organs are not. They're not. even the cells in your body, when you are sleeping, they're, you know, all those amino acids are being used to repair the muscle fibers that you've torn throughout the day from work or play or working out. If you think about so the organs not stopping. Oh, there was another thought. I'm sorry, we have landscapers and I'm getting like highly distracted because they're like popping in and out of these windows. Your skin is the largest organ. It's like a sponge. So if people actually understood that what they put on their skin or things that they touch, these chemicals and stuff get absorbed within your body and your bloodstream, I think people would think a little differently. I have a client who has signed up for 3 to 4 of these little, you know, needles, but throughout the tea that he recently bought, because it has soy lecithin in the ingredients, people don't know what's going on because they're not formally or properly educated, especially on certain things that are in there. But when you just do a little bit of research and you understand the heavy metals and the aluminum and all that stuff and blood-brain barriers, it's a completely different level of understanding where it's like your body can heal from soy lecithin, your body can heal from antibiotics, but the stuff that's going directly into the blood is very challenging to recover from. So some of these things are just so basic. It's when you dive deeper, you know, we're so superficial. Everything is like surface layer in Western society. So when you dive deep and just really start to think about this, it's like, why would I want to abuse myself? A lot of the reasons why people are so self-abusive is because this country, the world, I should say, but specifically America, besides being brainwashed, has no boundaries over their emotions. So they're constantly feeding themselves emotions. All you have to do is start looking back every decade, maybe every war. You know, the greatest generation, they were tough cookies. So in some ways we should have some respect for them, although there was definitely some old archaic mentality, mindset things that just aren't relatable to the awakened human being. But they did build this country. They also, so these men did these backbreaking, laborious jobs that were long hours, shitty pay. They probably worked 6, maybe 7 days a week. Like my father's father worked, I think, on the railroad or in some factory. So this is predominantly upright and moving work. And then, you know, they went to war, they come back all traumatized. So you have that generation producing babies, the baby boomers. A lot of those people have gotten messed up. And then especially the baby boomers who went off to Vietnam War have gotten messed up. They come home, have a kid. They produce this trauma-based cycle that has been going on for a long period of time. I know the very undeveloped baby boomer woman can be very difficult to deal with, and I empathize and sympathize with them because they have so many unresolved wounds and trauma, and their generation isn't open to really healing that unless they're kind of the woo-woo ones that broke out and were like the food rebel and became a vegetarian hippie person back in like the 60s and 70s. But you know, it's the drug use, the abusive use or eating consumption that we've had, whether it's been overeating or just even the type of food that has been incorporated, has caused a lot of self-destruction, self-harm, and a lot of those people are self-abusers because they're not emotionally in check and within control. Now, if you start even looking at people's emotional states and looking at how or where they vote, you can start to see some behavioral patterns. I have friends all over the political spectrum. The ones that are definitely mentally in check or a little bit tougher cookies generally tend to vote in you know, this one area, and then the other ones that are a little more softer and like flowing with their emotions and blah blah blah, you know, they tend to go on the other side of the spectrum. But I think that's one of the first steps to awakening for a lot of people. Understanding the enteric nervous system and how your brain and your gut are interconnected. You have more brain cells in your gut than in your brain. And that is another reason why you should really start to trust that inner wisdom and that those gut experiences, because a lot of people tend to ignore down here and they get up here all in the head. And I feel like up here is what also got people into a massive mess over the last couple of years, because all of that propaganda that has been laid out, you know, it makes sense logically, right? It's like, oh, we did this 20, 30 years ago with polio and eradicated and blah, blah, blah. And now, you know, I'm trying to be careful on my language here. So I'm not back in YouTube prison, but yeah, I just think that understanding the base. Oh, this is the other one. Sorry. Understanding the basics of human anatomy. So for example, what you consume, you excrete out. That is basic understanding, right? But some people don't really understand the deeper layer of stuff. For example, you have calcium that you consume. You know, calcium comes from a lot of the dark leafy greens. I know we all know it from dairy. But you consume calcium, and all that calcium is supposed to go to its higher intelligence of its purpose. So going for your teeth, your hair, skin, and nails, certain things like that. The calcium goes to the function of what it's supposed to do. I just genuinely believe the human body and all of the nutrients and stuff have its own like intelligence and higher wisdom. And that's things that we've been trying to understand over this shifting into the age of Aquarius. Anywho, but when you're really stressed out, you excrete and urinate out calcium. So it's why a lot of people who are nutritiously deficient, but also high levels of stress, they tend to have like crummy hair, or just some things aren't working. I have found this in myself when I was like a vegan back in college. I had massive hair issues, and the thing is, I just don't think my vitamin consumption was at a higher level as to what my stress levels were at the time, especially because back then in 2003, 4, and 5, when I worked at a vegan cafe, everything was predominantly either vegetables and soy based. So you had soy meat, soy yogurt, soy milk, you know, almond milk and stuff like that wasn't really a thing besides rice milk. But yeah, you excrete out the calcium. And so this will be a separate video in itself, but when you understand that you urinate these things out into nature, you can see how psych drugs and birth control and who the fuck knows what's going to happen with mRNA is getting pissed out into the environment. I mean, I live next to the Puget Sound, and our seals and salmon have been found with high contents of cocaine and psych drugs in them. I want to save that for a separate video, but yeah, if you know anybody that's kind of on the basics, I just think the basic understanding of your human anatomy should just be enough to want to stop to self-abuse. I don't know, but anyways, Happy New Year. Hope all is well, and hope to see you soon. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Bye-bye.